What's up, everybody? Welcome to your daily dose of government incompetence. My name is Joe Brown. This is Heresy Financial, and we all are probably watching what is going on with our neighbors up north in Canada, freezing assets of citizens, enacting the old War Measures Act, and looking at trying to really crack down on certain citizens. And one of the things that they're trying to do is freeze cryptocurrency assets. And so I want to show you one of the funniest examples of how governments know nothing about how cryptocurrencies work, specifically Bitcoin and self-custodial wallets. And so we're going to take a look at that. It's hilarious. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, so take a look with me at this court order, and it basically says here that banks, financial institutions, a lot of different types of companies, including cryptocurrency exchanges or platforms, all of these they're grouping in called the intermediaries. They're saying that if you're provided with notice of this order, you have to freeze and prevent removal, dissipation, alienation, transfer, assignment, encumbrance, transaction, or similar dealing with any of the assets identified in Schedule A to this order. Further, they will have to disclose and deliver any and all records held by the intermediary regarding these assets and where they are, how much it is, who has them, all of that. So basically, in plain English, the Canadian government is saying, hey, we are going to tell you that you have to give us the information that you have on all these people, the amount of assets that they have in your care on your platform, basically, where it came from, where it's going, and then not only on top of giving us the information, you also have to freeze the accounts. No money can come in or out. No transactions can take place. And this was specifically, it was given to a lot, but this is a tweet from Nunchuck, and they are a self-custodian wallet service here. And so this is their response. Dear the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, we are a self-custodial, collaborative, multi-sig Bitcoin wallet. We're a software provider, not a custodial financial intermediary. All right, before we move on there, I want to point out what that means. Do you remember back in the 90s when you wanted to play a video game? You would go to your local video game store, you would buy a disc. You'd take that disc home, you would install that game on your computer. I guess I'm thinking of PC games here, not console games. You'd install that game on your computer and you'd play the game. And it's usually some sort of a campaign game. This was, before the days of internet connected players, going into lobbies and playing against each other. Just basic computer games. You'd load it onto your computer and you'd play it. Imagine how preposterous it would be if the government came to one of these video game makers and they said, we need you to give us all the information about everybody who is currently playing your game that you made and stop them from playing your game. It's preposterous because they'd be like, no, we made the software. They bought it. They used it. We don't have any connection. We don't have an account. They don't have an account with us. We don't have any connection to them. It could have been, they could be using it. They might not be using it. Who knows? We just made software and that's it. We don't know anything about these people. We don't have any ability to stop them from playing this game. That's exactly what is going on here. And they continue. Our software is free to use. It allows people to eliminate single points of failures and store Bitcoin in the safest way possible while preserving privacy. We do not collect any user identification information beyond email addresses. We also do not hold any keys. Therefore, we cannot freeze our users' assets because guess what? They don't hold their users' assets. We cannot prevent them from being moved. Obviously, this is software that the individual is using themselves. There is no control over this. by the company here. We do not have knowledge of the existence, nature, value, and location of our users' assets. This is by design. Obviously, again, this is a self-custodial wallet. This isn't an exchange. This isn't an account. This isn't a platform. They're not controlling or using or harboring any of this data, anything like that. And the best part is, please look up how self-custody and private keys work. When the Canadian dollar becomes worthless, we will be here to serve you too. Sincerely, the Nunchuck team. Massive slam dunk here. Obviously, very funny way to respond to an authoritarian move, and it highlights the importance of custodying your assets yourself. Right? Like I've talked about this for a long time, ever since I changed my mind about Bitcoin back in I think it was April of 2020 when I made my first video on the first time I was bullish on Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure it was April of 2020. In any case, I've talked about this many times. It's like if you hold your Bitcoin with Coinbase, let's say, that's the same thing as putting a gold coin in a safety deposit box at the bank. Don't ever do that. Written in plain English in the terms, in most safety deposit box terms and conditions for most banks, they tell you you're not allowed to. But even if they say you can store gold or silver in there, they say, hey, in case of an emergency, we can completely prevent your access to this, and the government may seize everything in the safety deposit boxes, and they can search through it. It's like the point of having gold is to have it. Now, there are circumstances where it's helpful to have it in a private vault in a different country, so that if you have to escape, you've got wealth waiting for you on the other side, things like that. So there's certain situations where it makes sense, but not for everything. Similar with Bitcoin, there are certain situations in which having somebody else custody the assets for you makes sense, like with a self-directed IRA that holds, if you want Bitcoin in your IRA, you have a self-directed IRA with a company like iTrust Capital, which I use. You don't have the ability to custody those assets yourself if it's going to be under the banner of an IRA. So something like that makes sense. Now, is that meeting the purpose of the most safe and the most secure and the most private? Obviously not. There's different solutions for different needs, and this slam dunk by Nunchuck with the Canadian government here is just perfect because it highlights the extreme incompetence. And it's like, don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure I saw a study a while ago that the more authority and power somebody has, you can measure brain function actually decreases in terms of like your IQ score, your ability to your cognitive function, your ability to problem solve, and politicians, especially in times and situations where authority is greatly increased, you can see it play out in real time. That you wonder why people who are in positions of extreme power end up, a lot of times shooting themselves in the foot and making decisions that are self-destructive. It's like, yeah, power not only corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, but power actually makes you stupid. And so it's one of the reasons why, totalitarian states collapse under their own weight, because there's just not enough competence to go around to make something that complex and large work from a top-down methodology. It's just it collapses under its own weight, and so this is a perfect example of that. How you're number one, you're seeing government try and do things that they don't realize is not possible. When somebody holds their own assets, when they hold their own keys, when they self-custody their cryptocurrency, their Bitcoin, you can't just go to the maker of the wallet and get access to it. Just that's not the way it works. And so it also highlights, very important, you make sure, hey, for the specific portion of my Bitcoin that I'm using for safety and security and privacy and all of that, I'm not going to leave it on an exchange. I'm not going to let somebody else custody it for me. So I've got all my, obviously, as always, resources that I use linked in the description below if you're interested in where and how I do this. But I just thought this was funny. This was from like a week ago, so we'll see how things play out. But it'd be like the government going to a bank and saying, "Hey, we need you to go turn in all of the gold that your customers own." And they're like, "What do you mean? We don't have their gold. It's buried in their backyard. If they have any, and if they do, we don't know it. So how in the world are you expecting us to do that?" In the cases where they do hold the assets, that's where the government does have control. So we're seeing very clearly right now when the government's money in a bank account, and when push comes to shove at the end of the day, it's not yours. And so there's a purpose for it. There's a time and a place for it. But at the end of the day, if they want to, they can stop you from using it. So get into a situation to set up and get yourself robust against shocks like this as soon as possible, because there may come a day when those off ramps are completely closed, just like we're seeing happen in Canada right now. As always, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.